Take a good look at a map of South America. Amidst the massive, sprawling landmasses of Brazil and Argentina, one country stands out like a geographic anomaly. It's not wide, it's not square, and it certainly isn't balanced. It looks less like a nation and more like a long, jagged splinter carved into the edge of a continent. This is Chile, the longest, narrowest country on Earth. At first glance, Chile's shape seems like a fun bit of trivia, the kind of thing you'd see in a geography quiz. But behind this bizarre outline lies a high-stakes story of brutal warfare, extreme survival, and a desperate struggle against Mother Nature herself. Chile's shape isn't just a quirk, it's a logistical nightmare that creates constant problems, from devastating natural disasters to massive security headaches. How does a country that is 2,600 miles long, but only 100 miles wide, even function? How do you govern a place where you literally have to drive through a foreign country just to reach your own citizens? Today, we are diving deep into the mystery of Chile's borders, the bloody history that defined them, and the incredible ways this nation survives despite having some of the worst geography on the planet. A land carved by conflict. Chile wasn't always this long, thin line on the map. Thousands of years ago, this sliver of land was home to diverse indigenous groups who had adapted to its extreme contrasts. In the north, the Atacameos and Aymaras thrived in the high-altitude deserts. In the south, the fierce Mapuche warriors ruled the forests, a people so formidable that they would later become one of the few groups to successfully resist European conquest for centuries. When the Spanish Empire arrived in the 15th century, they weren't looking for scenic views. They wanted gold. But Chile wasn't like Mexico or Peru. There were no glittering Aztec or Inca capitals to plunder here. Instead, the Spanish found jagged mountains, bone-dry deserts, and a local population that fought tooth and nail for every inch of soil. When Chile finally gained independence from Spain in 1818, it was a tiny fraction of its current size. It was essentially a small Mediterranean pocket centered around Santiago and Valparaiso. So, how did it transform into this 4,000-kilometer giant? The answer lies in the late 19th century, an era of aggressive expansion. To the north, Chile eyed the mineral-rich lands held by Peru and Bolivia. This tension exploded into the War of the Pacific, 1879-1884. It was a brutal conflict, but Chile emerged victorious, seizing vast territories. This war was a turning point. It left Bolivia completely landlocked, losing its entire coastline to Chile, and pushed Chile's northern border 500 kilometers further into the desert. But they didn't stop there. To the south, Chile set its sights on Patagonia, a wild and desolate frontier that Argentina also claimed. The two nations nearly went to war several times over these icy plains. Finally, the Boundary Treaty of 1881 was signed, granting Chile control over the Strait of Magellan and much of the southern fjords. By the turn of the 20th century, Chile had reached its final iconic form, a country so long that if you laid it across the United States, it would stretch from New York City all the way to San Francisco, and then some. Trapped between a rock and a wet place. While Chile's expansion was a geopolitical victory, it created a geographic prison. To understand Chile's struggle, you have to look at what brackets it on either side. To the west, you have the infinite expanse of the Pacific Ocean. While this provides Chile with a massive coastline for trade, it acts as an immovable liquid wall. There is no expanding outward. To the east, you have the Andes Mountains, one of the most formidable mountain ranges on the planet. These aren't just hills. We're talking about peaks that soar above 6,000 meters, nearly 20,000 feet. Chile is effectively a narrow hallway between a wall of water and a wall of stone. In some places, the country is so narrow that you can drive from the mountain peaks to the ocean in less than 2 hours. This corridor geography makes traditional infrastructure almost impossible. Imagine trying to build a nation where your cities can only grow in 2 directions, north or south. There is no inland. There is no hinterland. There is only the line. The 2 extremes, fire and ice. Because Chile spans so many latitudes, it experiences every climate imaginable, and each brings its own set of disasters. In the north, you have the Atacama Desert. This is the driest place on Earth outside of the poles. Some weather stations here have never recorded a single drop of rain. It looks more like Mars than Earth, so much so that NASA actually tests its Mars rovers here. Yet, Chile needs this desert. It is the heart of their economy, containing the world's largest reserves of copper and lithium. But keeping miners alive and hydrated in a place with zero water is a logistical feat that costs the government billions. Then, you travel south, and the world flips. The desert gives way to the Lake District and eventually, the frozen fjords of the south. Here, the geography becomes so shattered into islands and mountains that building roads is considered a fool's errand. This leads to one of the strangest facts about Chile. It is physically disconnected. In regions like Aysén and Magallanes, there are no domestic roads connecting them to the capital of Santiago. If you want to drive to the southern tip of your own country, you have to cross the border into Argentina, drive hundreds of miles through their territory, and then cross back into Chile. For many Chileans, their own country is only accessible by boat or plane. The infrastructure nightmare. How do you keep a disconnected country from falling apart? This was the obsession of the 1970s and 80s. The government realized that if they didn't link the north to the south, the country would eventually fracture. The most ambitious attempt to fix this was the Carretera Austral, or Route 7. This highway was carved through some of the thickest jungles and steepest mountains on the continent. It took 40 years to build, and even today, it remains incomplete. Large sections of it are still unpaved, and in many areas, the highway simply ends at a river where you have to wait for a ferry. Maintaining this infrastructure is a never-ending battle, because Chile is also one of the most seismically active places on the planet. Situated directly on the Pacific Ring of Fire, Chile experiences thousands of earthquakes every year. In 1960, Chile suffered the Valdivia earthquake, the most powerful earthquake ever recorded in human history, a staggering 9.5 on the Richter scale. When a massive quake hits, like the 8.8 magnitude disaster in 2010, the country's shape becomes its biggest enemy. If the main north-south highway is severed by a landslide or a crack in the earth, the entire nation is cut in half. There are no alternative routes when your country is only 100 miles wide. Emergency supplies, ambulances, and rescue teams can be stranded for days because there simply isn't another way around the mountains. The cost of centralization. This geographic difficulty has forced a very strange population dynamic. Because the north is too dry and the south is too cold and mountainous, almost everyone huddles in the middle. Roughly 40% of Chile's entire population lives in the capital, Santiago, and its surrounding metro area. Imagine if nearly half of all Americans lived in a single city. This massive centralization creates a huge divide. While Santiago boasts world-class hospitals, skyscrapers, and universities, the remote regions in the north and south often feel forgotten. In cities like Arica or Punta Arenas, investment is scarce, and jobs are limited mostly to mining or fishing. This geographic inequality is a constant source of political tension. When your country is 4,000 kilometers long, the people at the ends of the line often feel like they're living in a different world than the people in the center, turning weakness into strength. By all accounts, Chile should be a struggling nation. Its geography is broken, its land is plagued by disasters, and its population is disconnected. Yet, Chile is currently one of the most stable and prosperous economies in South America. Your shape doesn't define your success. Your ability to adapt does. Don't waste time wishing for the geography you don't have. Start building on the land you've been given. If you found this deep dive into Chile's unique geography fascinating, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We travel across the globe using maps and data to uncover the hidden stories of our world. What other country has a broken geography that actually works? Let us know in the comments below.